so much for that introduction. My name is GIRISH. I represent CMB regional centers. Today we are going to discuss CMB Group 96, which is our latest offering. But before we begin, firstly, thank you all for being here despite heavy rains. So before we begin, just a raise of hands as to how many people have known about EB-5, know about EB-5 or have heard about EB-5 in the past. Okay, just a couple of hands. Okay, so just to have a brief introduction about EB-5 visa. EB-5 visa is an investment-based visa which allows main applicant, spouse, and unmarried children below 21 years of age to have permanent residency for the US, which is known as the green card for the US. So for that, the investment amount is $800,000 US, which is the current investment amount or the minimum investment amount, provided you invest into a qualifying business. So this is one of the qualifying businesses, and you are investing into that particular business, which is a job creating business. So from a US standpoint, this particular program is a job creation program. You will hear about a lot of other programs wherein you are investing directly into real estate and then you get a golden visa or residency or citizenship of that particular country. But US program is a bit different wherein you are investing into a business. So from a US standpoint, this is a job creation program wherein you have to invest into that business, the minimum of $800,000 US, and that is which will qualify you and your family for the green card for the US. So as far as CMB is concerned, we are one of the regional centers. So regional centers is a designation which is given to a particular organization where we are able to source EB-5 qualifying businesses wherein investors can come in, they can invest $800,000 US and can qualify for EB-5 visa. So as far as CMB is concerned, we were first established in the year 1997. So we are the second oldest active regional center in EB-5 space. We have been in this business since last 29 years. Mr. Pat Hogan, he's the founder and CEO of CMB Regional Centers. His daughter Noreen Hogan, she is the president of CMB Regional Centers and she runs the day-to-day operations of the company. We are headquartered in Dallas and we have a regional office in Rock Island. It's around 2.5 hours west of Chicago. So in these last 29 years, we have worked with more than 7,000 investors. And when I say 7,000, it's not main applicant plus spouse plus children. It's one single unit. So we have worked with 7,000 investors from 103 countries, including India, Singapore, and other countries as well. And we have raised more than $3 billion worth of EB-5 capital raise, out of which we have successfully repaid back $1.5 billion. So this is a very interesting fact about EB-5, that once you invest your investment amount, previously it used to be 500,000, now it's $800,000. And we are going to discuss as to the new law which governs this particular EB-5 program in detail across the panels today. But once you invest your $800,000 and once you cross a certain barrier, there is a possibility of you getting your capital back. So the two requirements of EB-5 visa are the job creation and secondly your investment being an at-risk investment. Now we don't need to be worried when we hear at-risk, it doesn't need to be a risky investment, but just like any other businesses or any other business wherein you're looking for a profit, gains or losses potentially, the program itself is designed by the USCIS, which is the adjudicating authority for the US, who looks after all the immigration cases. The program itself is designed in a manner where you need to invest $800,000 into the qualifying business, which has this possibility of gain or loss. Despite that, we have returned $1.5 billion worth of capital to all the eligible investors. Rest of the money is still under management. So whenever investors will be eligible, they will start getting the repayments as well. So these are all the stages through which each EB-5 investor goes through. So I-526 or I-526E approval stage, we have more than 5,700 investors who have crossed that first barrier. We have 3,000 investors who have received their final green card. So they have gone through all the hoops and they have their permanent residency in the US currently. So in total, we have had 80 plus projects. Rather, we have 80 plus projects which are approved. We have more than 95 projects currently, out of which 60 projects have received the I-829 approval. It means that some of the investors have received their final green card. And 50 plus partnerships have had seen return of capital as well. So out of 90 plus projects, all the investors from those 50 plus partnerships have the repayment of capital as well. So these are all the projects which we have had in the past. So if you see the investment amount varied at different points in time, it was at 500,000, then for a certain period of time it was 900,000. Then the new law came in which brought down the amount to 800,000 US dollars if it falls under the targeted employment area. So most of the projects that you will see with regional centers are within that targeted employment area. Those projects which fall outside of the targeted employment area has the investment amount of $1,050,000 US dollars. So what are the goals when you're looking at EB-5 program? The first goal is to get or secure your green card for yourself and the family. The second is return of your investment. So the 800,000 that you put in, you're expecting the repayment of that capital. And a very distant third goal is return on your investment. Mostly we look at this as an investment-based visa option, and the first thing which comes to our mind is whether we are going to get any capital appreciation out of that investment. But in EB-5 specifically, the return on your investment is very low. So you're expecting returns below 1% per annum. So the first priority is to get the green card for the US. And this is how most of the EB-5 projects are structured. So on the left side, if you see, each investor ends up becoming a limited partner, which enters a limited partnership. So CMB Group 96 is one of those limited partnerships in this particular case. CMB acts as a general partner, and this limited partnership is in the business of lending funds to the developer. So we work with several developers, we have worked with several developers in the past, wherein they are constructing some asset. So the Ellis, which we are going to discuss, is one of those assets. The construction activity is something which generates those 10 full-time jobs which are required for your EB-5 program. So it goes out as a loan, the asset is constructed, then there is an exit event which happens, the project is either sold off or refinanced, then the loan is repaid back into the partnership, and then each of the eligible investors will start getting their capital back. That's the full cycle of your investment. So this is the team that we have. You will see me over there in India. So we have a team of more than 60 people based out of our Dallas office and the regional office which is in Chicago. And this is very important. You will see that there are a lot of regional centers, good regional centers, large regional centers, small size regional centers as well. But this is something which differentiates few regional centers from others, when we have separate departments for project development, legal, compliance, investor relations team. So at any given point in time, to manage each of the activities that we conduct, we have separate department to manage those activities. We don't have people changing hats and doing different things at any given point in time. So the statistics which I showed to you a couple of minutes back, so all of those statistics are backed by third-party audits. So we conduct periodic audits through a third-party firm, and this is something which is a requirement as per the new law. So since the passage of the Reforms and Integrity Act of 2022, which was passed in March 2022, it has become a mandatory requirement that each of the regional centers have to conduct third-party audits. This is something which CMB has been conducting even before it was a requirement. So we did that voluntarily starting 2015 for all the partnerships dating back to early 2000s. Now coming to the current project that we have. So the current project that we have is CMB Group 96, the Ellis, and as the name states, it's a student housing project. We are looking for up to 50 investors, so that equates to $40 million US worth of EB-5 capital raise. So firstly, the question is why student housing in the first place? What does this asset class, does this asset class make sense over other asset classes when it comes to EB-5? Because when you're looking at EB-5 project, you're not looking at capital appreciation. You're looking at the green card, the job creation, and the repayment of your capital. So when you're looking at this program, it ideally is through a lens of a lender as to if I'm putting money into this particular project, will my project will be in a position to give my capital back to me in 4 or 5 years from now. So if you look at the statistics, the pre-leasing activity for this particular asset class, the student housing, as of May 2025, is as strong as 80%. The rent per bed is as high as $918. And if you look at the enrollments that have grown gradually as well, so the rental growth has grown to 3.8% as of December 2024, and the average enrollment rate is 2% increase every single year as of fall of 2024. And as far as University of Oregon is concerned, so this project basically is just at a walking distance of University of Oregon in Eugene, Oregon. And if you see over here, the enrollment rates have increased by 3% as of 2024, and they have seen a record enrollment as of fall of 2024 as well. So the class of 2027 is the second largest enrollment that they have ever seen. So what's happening in this particular asset class or universities in the US is there is a lot of consolidation happening, and the developer, which is Fields Holdings, we are going to discuss about them later as well. They're trying to take advantage of that consolidation which is happening in that particular market. So these are few salient features of the Eugene submarket. So just outside of the University of Oregon where this particular project is, it's basically a 14-story building. It's a mixed-use development where they are constructing 14 stories worth of student housing space, which is going to consist of 306 units and around 685 beds. And along with that, they also have 17,000 square feet worth of retail space. So out of 17,000 square feet worth of retail space, 10,000 square feet has already been pre-leased to a restaurant chain, Raising Cane's. So that is a positive as well. Now, apart from that, this particular project is also going to have these amenities which are listed down over here. And there are a few things which are also interesting. So Phil Knight Library. So Phil Knight from Nike, he is an alumnus from University of Oregon. Along with that, Jordan Schilzner, Museum of Art, he is also an alumnus of University of Oregon. So all these things are very near to this particular project that we are discussing. We also have a live camera linked to this project, so anyone who is interested can have a look at the live camera. It's 24/7 feed, which anyone can have a look at. Now, as far as this project is concerned, this falls under the high unemployment area category. So there is a 10% set aside for this kind of project. Now, this is dictated by the analysis which we do, and we need to prove that the project, the location is basically having an unemployment rate which is 150% above the national average. So that is something which we have already filed for. We have filed for the 956F petition, which needs to go in before we start taking in investors. And that will consist of all the PPM, the business plan, the TEA analysis, and the job creation analysis. So if you look at the project capital stack, this is fairly a mid-sized project or rather smaller project. The total project cost is $128 million US, out of which EB-5 is pitching in $40 million US, which is 50 investors. Developers' own equity is around $11.3 million US, and there is a senior lender in place. So there is a bank which is at a senior position. That's Bank of California. They are contributing $76.6 million US. So the bank is going to be at the top, then EB-5 loan is at a mezzanine level, and then developers' equity. So when there is an exit event, the priority for the repayment is going to be the senior lender, the EB-5 loan, and then the developers' own equity. So as we discussed that every EB-5 investor needs to prove that a minimum of 10 jobs are created at the back of your 800,000 worth of investment. So as per our analysis, there is a job offer of around 76.2%, which means that each of the investors who will be entering this partnership will be able to capture 17.6 jobs instead of the minimum 10. So there is some kind of job offer which often is looked at as a positive when it comes to any kind of EB-5 investment. There is no brownie point for any additional buffer. All you need is 10 jobs per investor, but these additional numbers do help. In case there is any change in the qualified spends, we need to have that buffer to ensure that all the investors who are investing, so all the 50 investors, are able to capture the required job creation amount. So that's the pro forma. I won't go into this in detail, but what we're looking at basically is we're looking at a construction timeline of 2025 to 2027. The project is going to be completed around Q3 of 2027. And once that happens, any project, once it's completed, needs to have some kind of stabilization period. So we're looking at around 1 to 1.5 years of stabilization period. and then the project will either be sold off to a prospective institutional investor, or it can be refinanced as well. And the amount which is generated from the leasing activity, from the operational revenues, can also be captured for the repayment of the loan. The loan tenure for this particular project is 5 + 1 years. So we are expecting the original maturity date to be around 2031. If they extend the loan by 1 year, then it will be around 2032. So this particular developer, Fields Holdings, they specialize in student housing projects. They have been in this business since 2008. We have worked with them in the past once as well. So we did one project, Group 71. So apart from this, we'll discuss about Group 71, but these are the projects which they have under their belt. In the past, all of them are already completed. And this is the project Group 71, which we did. We raised EB-5 capital for this particular project, the M in Seattle, back in 2018. So this project was complete in 2020. So if you remember, it was during the heights of COVID that they completed the project. They reached the stabilization period by 2022. The loan was maturing in 2024, but they were able to sell off the project to another institutional buyer, Greystar, in 2022 itself, and they were able to return the loan 2 years prior to the maturity date. So that's their track record. They were able to successfully complete, stabilize, sell off, and repay the loan before time. So there are certain collaterals which we have in place as well. So as EB-5 investor, you individually cannot have any collaterals. There cannot be any guarantees in terms of your investment that you're doing. But the partnership, the Group 96, where all those 50 investors are investing or pooling their funds, that partnership can definitely have the collaterals. So we have these collaterals which are in place. So we have an intercreditor agreement with the senior lender, with Bank of California. So in case there is any default or in case there is any foreclosure proceedings which the senior lender would want to proceed with, then they have to have us in the loop as well. So there is an intercreditor agreement which essentially has certain terms and conditions where we need to collaborate or they need to collaborate with the EB-5 lender so that whenever there is any liquidation event or workouts, we can work together on that. Second is interest reserve and cash flow pledge account. So once the project is constructed and once the leasing activity starts happening, we have a cash flow pledge account wherein the developer has to post the cash flow, minimum 50% of the cash flow into that particular account, whereas CMB Group 96 will have the first priority rights. They cannot unilaterally withdraw that amount into their own account. So this is one of the collaterals. Another collateral is completion guarantee, which is usually given to the senior lender, but it essentially states that in case there is any additional funding required or in case the project needs to be completed and there is some kind of issues, then the parent entity of the developer will ensure that there is enough funding into the project so that they are able to complete the project on time. This is usually given to the senior lender, but the advantage of that trickles down to the EB-5 loan as a mezzanine lender as well. So these are some of the collaterals that we have in place. So that's all about CMB Group 96. If you have any more questions, I'm at booth B1. Happy to help with any of the questions that you may have regarding this project. And thank you so much for